seeing the hand of God at work. And we're gonna go through like each of this topic will be going to be a miracle, but it all points to the calling of Elisha into God's work, kingdom work. So the first session, it talks about God's hand is calling us to serve. And we're going to be going back to the Old Testament, basically First Kings and Second Kings. We're going to follow the life of Elisha, okay, not Elijah. This is going to be Elisha's calling. And when it comes to calling, God always invites us, okay? He's always inviting people to join in His kingdom work. So let's go straight to 1 Kings, verse 19 to 21. If you can read with me, that would be good. Ready, read. So Elijah went from there and found Elisha, son of Shaphat. He was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen, and he himself was driving the 12th pair. Elijah went up to him and threw his cloak around him. Elisha then left his oxen and ran after Elijah. "Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye," he said, "and then I will come with you." Go back. Is it there? Is it there or no? Is there? Okay. Where are we? "Let me kiss my father and mother goodbye," he said, "and then I will come with you." "Go back," Elijah replied. "What have I done to you?" So Elisha left him and went back. He took his yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He burned the plowing equipment to cook the meat and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he set out to follow Elijah and became his servant. So we're jumping right into chapter 19, 1 Kings. But in context, if you look at chapter 18 of 1 Kings, that's where the climax of Elijah's ministry. Chapter 18, that's when Elijah was at the peak of his ministry. And that's when Elijah challenged King Ahab to summon all the Israelites along with the prophets of the false gods. Remember that? When they went to Mount Carmel. And that's where Elijah defeated all the false prophets. So the Mount Carmel is like one of the highlights in 1st and 2nd Kings. But after that, Jezebel, the infamous Ahab's wife, sent a message to Elijah, and Elijah technically, because she was planning to kill him and he feared for his life, Elijah fled to the wilderness, and that's where God fed him, and that's where he was told by God that, "Elijah, you're going to anoint Hazael, the king of Aram, at the same time Jehu as the king of Israel, and Elisha as prophet." If you have your Bibles, it's in verse 19, verse 18. That's okay, you don't have to read it, but it's there that God already commanded Elijah to anoint Elisha. So this is the transition between two prophets, one prophet Elijah and the upcoming prophet that will replace him in the name of Elisha. So this word Elisha is the name of this new prophet. And if you look at these verses, you can tell that Elisha belonged to a well-off family. The fact that he has his own oxen, he has the 12th of it. So he belonged in a family that is well off. They have their own farming. Maybe they own their own land, and they have their own equipment. So he could have just said, "You know what? This is not for me. Kingdom's work. I know what happened to you, Elijah, and I'm not going to go there. But he said here, eventually he followed. But there's a statement when he said there, I have to ask my father and my mother. Sometimes we think of this in the New Testament, right? Like Jesus said, if you are not what you call this worthy to follow me. But this is very, very practical what he did here, because what he did here was he actually burned his, what do you call that? A yoke, and then he he burned a plowing equipment and cooked the meat and gave it to the people, and that was pretty much his goodbye party. Then he followed Elijah. This calling is something, and we can tell that Elisha understood or heard the calling, because what we are going through in this series is about the calling, God's hand in calling, and he acted on it. Okay, let's go to verse 7 to 11 in Second Kings. We're gonna jump now into the Second Kings from First Kings. If you notice, we're gonna be going pretty fast here. So from First Kings 19, we're gonna jump to Second Kings, because this is where now the actual passing of the baton, if you think about it, from Elijah to Elisha. Let's read verse 7. 1, 2, 3, go. 50 men from the company of the prophets went and stood at a distance, facing the place where Elijah and Elisha had stopped at the Jordan. Elijah took his cloak, rolled it up, and struck the water with it. The water divided to the right and to the left, and the two of them crossed over on dry ground. When they had crossed, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I am taken from you?" "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit," Elisha replied. "You have asked a difficult thing," Elijah said. "Yet if you see me when I am taken from you, it will be yours. Otherwise, it will not." As they were walking along and talking together, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire appeared and separated the two of them. And Elijah went up to heaven in a whirlwind. This is, if you read this, you're like, who? You're like watching a futuristic movie. And this is like Second Kings. This is like Old Testament. And from that verse that we read in verse 19 in First Kings to Second Kings chapter 2, during the time, Elisha actually went through what we call now an OJT. He went through an on-the-job training, watching, observing Elijah work for the kingdom. He confronted Ahab, the king of Israel, and then he saw Elijah actually call that fire that consumed the king's soldiers, and he just saw things that are amazing in the life of Elijah. But these were minor events. The consequences that followed affected the nation, and Elisha probably realized these things were all part of the process that God has been preparing for him as a prophet. So when he saw all these things in the life of Elijah, he was not like for us now 100% a prophet at this time, but he was looking at God, who is the master. God in his presence, he can do great and mighty things, and he equips people for service. And this is what we see in the life of Elijah here and Elisha. And do you understand this when Elisha asked? By the way, what was Elisha's? What was Elisha's request here in verse? What verse is this? Verse 20? No, sorry. Verse. Is it verse 9? Verse 9, what does it say? Okay, let me tell you what I can. Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit. So this is when Elijah and Elisha were talking, and Elijah was okay. What would you like? Uh, Remember, before that question, they divided. Elijah took his cloak and divided the water. I mean, the very famous the very parting of the Red Sea is the very famous one, right? But that's Moses. Actually, Joshua did that as well. And here, Elijah did that as well. Actually, in the next verses that we're going to, Elisha did that as well, like the parting. This is like a display of God's power. And then Elijah asked him, tell me what can I do for you before I am taken from you? So Elijah already knows that he's going. Elijah already knows that his time is up, that his ministry is over. After all these things that God has used him. And Elisha's request was, give me or let me inherit a double portion of your spirit. What does that mean? A double portion of your spirit. We always, I don't know if you hear this in some prayers or some, a double portion. Do you know what the double portion is? Remember, in the Jewish culture, the firstborn gets what? The double portion. Remember the parable of the prodigal son? Actually, the older brother gets two portions and the younger brother. So technically, if there's two people, two kids, they're going to divide into three. Two will get to the eldest. The 1/3 will go to the youngest. So this is technically when Elisha saw the things that God displayed in using Elijah, he said, I pray that I'm gonna get not just what your spirit, what you have, but double of that. Like this, he's just excited to have that. And the promise was, okay, I cannot promise you, but if you see me taken from you, it will be yours. And there are only two people that I can remember in the Bible that did not see death. Right? There was one. What's the first person? Huh? Methuselah? No, Methuselah is the longest. Yeah. But the second one, I'm trying to remember. The first one is in the Genesis part, but the second one is Elijah. He was taken up with chariots of fire. Think about that, chariots. You know what chariot is, right? Like there's horses with their carriage, and it's like on fire, and you're like taken up to heaven. And when he saw that, that's when Elijah got taken up to heaven, and Elisha was left alone. And you will see here how God proved once again, not just to Elijah, but to prepare Elisha for the new ministry that he's going to do. And was that? Enoch, there you go. Good job, Pastor Larry. Enoch, there you go. Yeah, he was the one who he did not see death. Right? So now let's jump to 2 Kings now, 12 to 15. 12 to 15, let's read. Go. Elisha saw this and cried out, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel. And Elisha saw him no more. Then he took hold of his garment and tore it to two. Elisha then picked up Elijah's cloak that had fallen from him and went back and stood at the bank of the Jordan. He took the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and struck the water with it. Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah, he asked. When he struck the water, it divided to the right and to the left, and he crossed over. The company of the prophets from Jericho who were watching said, the spirit of Elijah is resting on Elisha. And they went to meet him and bowed down to the ground before him. Now, this is a very dramatic sequence of events, how God showed or how God commissioned Elisha. And when he said, my father, he was talking his relationship throughout the years with Elijah was so close, and he saw technically, practically, Elijah taken up to heaven. Now, if we look at this, God is inviting us always. God is in the mission of calling people. But there are moments in our lives that when we are in the midst of this invitation or whatever step, it's not just invitation to become a Christian, invitation in our walk with the Lord. There will be some crisis of belief that you will just be maybe come to a point that, is this really God's will for me to do this? If God is calling you to do something. And this is the crisis that Elisha technically was feeling, like suddenly his mentor is gone. Or all what was left was this cloak. But with that cloak, God proved that the Spirit of God is resting on him, because that's when he struck the water again, and that water was parted, and all the other people who witnessed this saw that what happened, and they said, oh, this is the new prophet that God will use, and this is the person Elisha. And this is something that we as a church, every member, every individual need to acknowledge that we are called for something greater, something different, something that God has prepared for. And get this, He will not call us without equipping us. In the case of Elisha, the Spirit rested in him. It's not in the cloak, okay? It's not in that dress or something. It's the Spirit that's in him that got him into that. And if later in the next sessions, we're going to see how God used Elisha in the ministry. So it's good that we are a few here today. I would like you, including you, Dave, can you move in? I'm going to have an activity for each and every one of us. Can you distribute the test paper? No, this is not a test. This is not a test. This is not a test. This is just a survey. Okay, so we're going to give you a piece of paper, each of you, and then this is just to assess your spiritual gift. What is really my gift? Am I a square peg and being put into a circle hole? Or am I just fit into where I am right now? So maybe you can move. I'll do it. I'll do it today. You can just, what you can do, Dave, is you can just put the instruction. You need a pen because every one of us is gonna go through this. Okay, so here's the this is not a test, so there are no wrong answers. I think you see that. The spiritual gift survey consists of 80 statements. Some items reflect concrete actions, other items are descriptive traits, and still others are statements of belief. Select the one response you feel best characterizes yourself and place that number in the blank provided. So what I would like you to do first is you number 1 to 80. Okay, 1 to 80. This is going to be fast. You're not going to submit this. And then move a bit so you don't copy your neighbor. Move, Dave. I said, move, Dave. So just number for now, 1 to 80, okay? Then do not spend too much time on any item. Remember, it is not a test. Usually your immediate response is best. So like when you think about a number, bang, that's it. Please give an answer for each item. Do not skip any item. Do not ask others how they are answering or how they think you should answer. Work at your own pace. So, with your numbering, I mean, you don't have to finish your 80 now. Wherever you are, we can start. So, you can either select number 5, you can say, highly characteristic of me, definitely true of me, number 5. Most of the time, this would describe me. It would be truth for me. Frequently characteristic of me, true for me about 50% of the time, that's 3. Number 2 is occasionally characteristic of me, about 25% of the time, this describes me. And number 1, not at all characteristic of me, definitely untrue for me. So if it's 1, it's low, then it goes up to 5. So if that statement says you technically agree like this is really me, you can put 5. If you think that, yeah, you know what, maybe 50-50, 3. If you say, you know what, this is not me, put 1. Okay, number 1. I have the ability to organize ideas, resources, time, and people effectively. So the guideline is there. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 is highest, 4, 3, 2, 1. If this is you, number 1, you have the ability to organize ideas, then you put 5. If you think, you know what, I'm not very good in organizing people effectively, maybe 3. So there's no wrong and right answer. It's just a survey of who you are. You good? Number 2, I am willing to study and prepare for the task of teaching. So the question is here, the guideline is there. Okay, I'll just put it up. I'm not going to read everything. Tell me when you're done with number 9 or number 10. Up, come on. There. James is like, I'm already in 11. Just kidding. Okay, don't overthink. Don't overthink. Whatever comes to your mind, that should be it. Don't doubt. 5 is highest, 3 is mid, 1 is low. You done, Jeb? Oh, wow. Oh, you're fast. Who's done? Who's not done yet? Lois, don't overthink. Where are you now? 9. Oh, there you go. Dana, you're done? Okay, Dave's still writing. I guess he's just writing the numbering. He's just numbering. So everyone's down to 10. Okay, good. Let's go 11 to 20. I just 17 for now. Number 10 there. Just put number 10 here. The rest can go. 10 is I have delivered God's message to warning and judgment. I am able to sense the true motivation of persons and movements. I have the ability to trust God in difficult situations. cells up? No. This is how we do it now, okay? Follow these directions to figure your score for each spiritual gift. Place in each box your numerical response, 1 to 5, to the item number which is indicated. You don't have this. So what I'm going to tell you is, look at item 6. So you copy the word leadership. Then you look for number 6, 16, 27, 43, 65. What's your number there? Okay, let's start with leadership. Leadership, what's your number with 6? Let's do together, okay? 6, 16, 27, 27, 43, and 65. Okay, then total those numbers. You should be able to add this, right, Ellie girl? 1 plus 1 equals 2. There you go. So I don't have to tell you the rest. You just almost done. Service. Oh yeah, there's only three more: mercy, giving, and hospitality. After service, so there's four pretty much. There's still more. You're done, Dave? Okay, that's good. It's good to have the. I was planning to print this actually. Easier. I lost our Wi-Fi. We lost our Wi-Fi to reset, and I resetted it. All the connections were gone, including the printer. You're just adding up. Okay, good. So you're just adding up. Everyone's adding, right? So everyone's adding. I can show you the graph here, but it's so difficult. You don't have a graphing paper with you. No, don't look at that yet because it's so. So technically, when you're done adding, now we can determine which is or what are your gifts. So when you add, your maximum is what? What's the maximum per gift? 25, right? So what is your leadership? So this is something that you look at to yourself, like who who among us here have a 25, or if you have a 25, which one is that? And does it confirm who you are? Like, are you like a leader? Like, do you have a gift of leadership or administration or teaching? So because of through this, you will know that, yeah, this is my gifting, because not every one of us have the same gifts, have the same talents. So when God called Elisha, he knew, God knows Elisha's strengths and weaknesses, Elijah's strengths and weaknesses as well. The same is true with us. So this spiritual survey, spiritual gift survey is very, very important. I did this like years ago, and this is a different approach that they have here. But this will tell you whether you are in the right path. Like, I am really a merciful person. I'm really a hospitable person. I'm not into administration. I'm not into prophecy or discernment. I'm more into shepherding. I'm more into faith or evangelism, right? Do you want to share what's your 25? Dave, what's your 25? Or what's your highest? Sorry, what's your highest? Shepherding. Okay, what's your highest, Dana? Mercy. James, what's your highest? Mercy. Larry, do you have your highest already? Or are you still adding? What's that? Oh, still adding. Okay. Grace, what's your highest? Faith and giving. How about Elsie? Service and mercy. Uh, Mira, what do you have? What's your highest? Hospitality, hospitality, giving, and service. Okay. How about Jeb? Faith. How about Rachel? Exhortation and mercy. How about Nikki? Administration. Okay, so if you think about it, does it really speak to who you are? Like Dana's like, yeah, yeah. James is like, yeah, yeah. It seems this is actually me, right? So the more you know who you are, and that should be where you you should like spend your time with, because that's your strength, right? I mean, you can spend time in your weaknesses because we're trying to be balanced here, but when it comes to serving, when God calls us in the ministry, like I myself, I knew when I did this years, I knew that I'm into administrative and leadership. And it doesn't mean that if you are low on that, doesn't mean that you won't be used by God in that. But it's just to acknowledge where your strengths are. What is your lowest? Let's start with Nikki. What's your lowest? Or do you have many lowest? Evangelism. Okay. Okay, pastor's wife. What's your lowest, Rachel? Just one, maybe you have two or three, but prophecy. How about Jeb? What's your lowest, Jeb? Apostleship and just one. Just yeah, okay. How about Mira? What's your lowest, Mira? Prophecy. LC. Prophecy and apostleship. Let's go back to Larry. What's your highest, Larry? Faith. Okay. What's your lowest? Prophecy. Grace. What's your lowest? Prophecy and apostleship. How about James? Apostleship. Okay. Dana. What's your lowest? Prophecy. What's your lowest, Dave? There's so prophecy is one of the what's the question on prophecy? Number 10. What's item 10? Oh, I don't have I have the questions here. 10 is I have delivered God's message of warning and judgment. 25 25 is I feel that I have a message from God to deliver to others. And then 40 is I have spiritual insights from scripture concerning issues and people that compel me to speak out. 54 is I have delivered to other persons messages that have come directly from God. This is so Elisha. 69 is God gives me messages to deliver to. So prophecy is that's something, right? So that's like different level of but there's as I said, there's no right and wrong answers in this survey. It just tells you who you are. So it says for each gift place a mark, for each gift shade a bar. The resultant graph gives a picture of your gifts. Gifts for which the bars are tall are the ones in which you appear to be strongest. Gifts for which the bars are very short are the ones in which you appear not to be strong. Now that you have completed the survey, thoughtfully answer the following questions. The gifts I have begun to discover in my life are. What are the gifts that in your when you look at your numbers there, like that you really have discovered that, and you can list that. And I am beginning to sense that God wants me to use my spiritual gifts to serve Christ's body by how. I am not sure yet how God wants me to use my gifts to serve others, but I am committed to prayer and worship, seeking wisdom and opportunities to use the gifts I have received from God. Ask God to help you how He has gifted you to service and how you can begin to use this gift in ministry to others. So this is a very good survey, um, and usually this is done to uh, mature or adults or leaders. But it's when I saw this in the okay, I think we should do this now, because I don't know if you've done this before, but this could be, keep that paper. I will email, I will post this document so you will know what the numbers are, what the questions are or the statements are in the numbers. You can go back. Okay, let's close in worship, and then we'll go to our prayer time. We're gonna have a joint prayer today. Thank you so much. Keep your papers, and that's yours.